When you think of Islam, you probably think of a hijabi woman, or the prostration, or even a Middle Eastern man with a huge beard. Or maybe you don't. But anyways, this is completely due to how Western media portrays Islam. However, you'd probably be surprised to learn that the country with the most Muslims in the world is not in the Middle East. No, it's not in Africa either. It's in the underbelly of the dense jungle, the clear beaches, the fragrant depths, and the hot and humid lands of Southeast Asia. Indonesia to be exact, with the fourth largest population in the world. Indonesia has around 220 million Muslims, which makes up for around 87% of the population, along with 10% Christians, both Protestant and Catholic, 2% Hindu, and 1% Buddhist. Pretty cool, right? Well, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how Islam spread through Indonesia in the first place, more specifically, the 9 saints of Indonesia. But first, for some context, let's quickly look at the events preceding the 9 saints. Traders from powerful Middle Eastern empires followed trade routes going through India and into Sumatra, an Indonesian island, and began spreading the word around the 8th century CE. In the 12th century, Islam began to spread throughout Sumatra and modern-day Malaysia through dedicated missionaries from the Abbasid Caliphate. And through these efforts, Sufism in particular began to gain a strong foothold in maritime Southeast Asia. So, overall, a pretty peaceful endeavor. Not much bloodshed, and this is characteristic of Islamic expansion in Southeast Asia. And for even more context for the time frame we are about to look at, around the time Islam came around, the Javanese Hindu-Buddhist powerhouse, the Majapahit Empire, still existed but was starting to decline. The Hindu-Buddhist Javanese resisted Orthodox Sunni Islam, and Java became one of the most difficult regions to convert because of the cultural grip that Hindu-Buddhism had on the population. And now this brings us to the 14th, 15th, and 16th century CE, where the 9 saints come in. The 9 saints are called Wali Sanga in the Javanese language. Wali in this context meaning a saint in Arabic, and Sanga meaning 9 in Javanese. Each of the 9 saints were scholars, preachers, and mystics who did benevolent and dedicated work to incorporate Islam into Javanese societies. The 9 saints all generally did very similar things, such as focusing on blending traditional Javanese elements with Islamic teachings, establishing Islamic learning centers called pesantren, and building mosques. All this being done carefully not to dismantle or replace any of the cultural beliefs and practices, only slightly modifying them to cater to Sufi Islam. Anyways, without further ado, let's briefly go over the Wali Sanga. The word Sunan is a shortened way of saying Susuhunan, which in Javanese is a title for a saint. This is typically followed by a place where they're based out of. Sunan Greset's real name is Maulana Malik Ibrahim. He was originally from Persian-controlled Gujarat, a region in India, and settled down in Gresik, a city in East Java with intent to trade and spread Islam. He's known for building the first pesantren, which are Islamic learning centers. And from there, he spread Quranic knowledge. He was also known for teaching social justice, monotheism, and ethics, which all lined up with Islamic thought. Sunan Gresik was also skilled in medicine from his time in Persia, so he built trust with the locals of East Java by treating the sick and the needy. He was also known for doing random acts of kindness. And through his work, status, and benevolence, he helped build the first foundations of the Sultanate of Demak, the first Sultanate of Java. Sunan Ampel's real name is Raden Rahmat, and he lived in the 15th century CE. He's originally from Champa, a powerful empire in modern-day Cambodia. Upon moving to Java, he quickly married a Majapahit princess, Nyai Ageng Manila, in order to legitimize himself as a powerful figure within Javanese society. He established the first institutional pesantren in Java called Pesantren Ampel Denta in Ampel, Surabaya. Sunan Ampel also taught about 5 core values about Islam that he encouraged everyone follow called Mahlima, or the 5 avoidances. Mahmain, avoidance of gambling. Mahmatat, avoidance of drugs. Mahmaling, avoidance of theft. Mahmaput, avoidance of drunkenness, and Mohmadon, avoidance of adultery. Sunan Ampel was heavy on syncretism and gradually incorporated Islamic teachings into Javanese contexts so that locals would be more inclined to convert, and the population in East Java received it very well. Sunan Bonang's real name is Raden Maulana Makdum Ibrahim, and he is the son of Sunan Ampel. He studied in Pasai, which is modern-day Aceh in northern Sumatra, and one of the oldest and most legitimized bastions of Islam in Southeast Asia. Sunan Bonang used Javanese arts to capture the hearts of the locals. He is most famous for his gamelan pieces, singing about Sufi teachings, which the locals really enjoyed. He also constructed his own hymns called Tsulo, which are generally quite Sufi in nature, mostly with themes about Tawheed, which is the oneness of God. His tomb resides in Tuban in East Java, and his sulok are known all over Southeast Asia. Sunan Kalijogo's real name is Raden Mas Said, and he was from Tuban in East Java. His father was a very powerful man named Tumenggung Wilatikta, a Majapahit governor. Sunan Kalijogo's early life is comparable to Robin Hood, stealing from the rich to give to the poor, and became quite infamous in his community for that. One day, he encountered Sunan Bonang, and Sunan Bonang's sermons and words of wisdoms changed him forever, converting him to Islam on the spot. Sunan Kalijogo used traditional Javanese culture to spread Islam. He is most known for using Javanese shadow puppetry, called wayang kulit, in order to convey Sufi teachings using traditionally Hindu and Buddhist stories like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Sunan Kalijogo also emphasized environmental awareness and touched on the traditional Javanese belief that humans are connected to the earth. In his pasantrens, he taught about sustainable practices that would help the environment. His tomb resides in Katilangu in Demak. Sunan Kutos was born in the Kutos region in Central Java. His real name was Jafar Shadik. It is often said that Sunan Kutos is a descendant of Prophet Muhammad through his father, but that is often debated. He was known to be incredibly educated, studying at pasantrens all over Java. His education revolved around the Quran, jurisprudence or fiqh, and Sufism. Sunan Kutos liked the idea of incorporating Javanese architecture into most of the Islamic buildings that he built, the most notable being the Menara Kutos Mosque. Sunan Kutos is also known to respect other religions heavily. In the Kutos region, he discouraged the slaughtering of cows out of respect for the Hindus, promoting the slaughtering and consumption of water buffalo instead. His tomb is located in Kutos and is also a very popular pilgrimage site for all Javanese alike. Sunan Muria is the son of Sunan Kalijogo, who married a noblewoman from the royal court of the Majapahit. His real name is Raden Umar Said. His main goal was to spread Islam to more rural areas. Rural areas in the Majapahit Empire were known to have very strong connections to animism and Buddhism in particular, so he wanted to take a different approach to spreading Islam in these regions. Typically, these rural regions are mountainous and are difficult to traverse, so Sunan Muria had pasantrens built in very convenient areas for their locals so that they had easy access to education. He took on a more simplistic way of life and really preached about living life simply and with humility, and used Sufism to teach that. Sunan Gunung Jati's real name was Sultan Abdullah Muhammad Shafiuddin, and he was also the son of Sunan Ampel. Sunan Gunung Jati studied under his father during his childhood and adolescent years, and was known to be a very wise person at a very young age. Later on, Sunan Gunung Jati based himself in Cirebon, West Java. His aim was to spread Islam in West Java, making Cirebon his headquarters by building a sultanate, the Sultanate of Cirebon. Because of this, he became a very talented diplomat. He basically took inspiration from the previous saints and applied them to West Java, like installing pasantrens, building mosques, catering to the local population through syncretism, and preserving the native culture. His tomb is in Gunung Jati, an area near Cirebon. Sunan Derajat's real name was Raden Qasim and was also the son of Sunan Ampel. By the time Sunan Derajat was born, Sunan Ampel's household and immediate connections were entirely Islamic, so Sunan Derajat had a centrally Islamic childhood, becoming a devout Sufi since childhood. When he got older, he based himself in Paciran in East Java. Sunan Derajat went the economic route and made efforts in social welfare. Sunan Derajat emphasized willingly helping the needy and marginalized groups, also known as sadaqah. Sadaqah and zakat, one of the pillars of Islam, are similar, but sadaqah is willing charity while zakat is obligatory charity. His main focus in the pesantrens was business, teaching things like business strategies and emphasize honest business practices. He was also known to be a family man, holding his family dear to him, and so he taught the importance of community, family, and the Sufi connection with God. Sunan Kiri's real name was Raden Paku. He based himself in the Kiri region and was also the son of Sunan Ampel. His main contribution was in education, founding the Kiri Pesantren, which became one of the leading centers of Islamic knowledge in Southeast Asia. He reformed education all over Java to include science, mathematics, philosophy, and business, and not just religious studies. He became the advisor of multiple local sultanates, such as the Sultanate of Banten and the Sultanate of Demak. Through these sultanates, he began setting his sights on smaller villages and established pesantrens there. Like Sunan Gunung Jati, Sunan Kiri was also a skilled diplomat who negotiated and promoted peace all over Indonesia, and from there, he helped spread Islam to farther reaches like Lombok, Sulawesi, and Maluku. So yeah, those were brief summaries about the life and the contributions of each of the 9 saints of Indonesia. They were known to be some of the most benevolent, well-mannered, and helpful people in Indonesian history, and their legacy and teachings still resonate with the culture to this day. So the next time you're thinking of stealing, just remember, one of the saints of Indonesia actually did. Stay safe out there, folks.